this last set of AC matches has seen the end to the regular season of Season 7, and now it's Ultimate Conquest time, which means it's prediction season. So for those of us not participating in this, we have these rewards obtainable, and then the feathers too for the individual matchups as well, which we can get this stuff with. The rewards are very decent if you get a lot right, to be honest. Like 50k diamonds and a gold total badge for getting everything right. I think with these last two rewards, like, they're very, very good obviously, but they're very difficult to get just because if you get one thing wrong early, it will change the matchups later, and then you can't get it right later because the matchups you predicted on aren't the matchups that actually happen. And especially this, like, I could see some of the favorites deliberately losing in the winners bracket just to drop down to get more awards through the losers bracket. I think we've seen that before. I know some people have complained about that with their predictions in last season as well. Here's the bracket. So I will give a disclaimer. I mean, one, this video is probably going to be absurdly long because I don't want to give a prediction and not explain my reasoning for it. So I'll probably put timestamps in the description if you want to skip around to certain matches you're interested in. But also I am maybe kind of insulated within my own social circle. I don't have any accounts in any of these alliances. I'm not in any of their discords. I don't know any of them too well, so a lot of what I'm going to say is an outsider's perspective. But I do follow the scene very closely. I do follow all these alliances and their event performances, so I do think I have a pretty decent idea of how this will go. So in the first matchup we have Run against RUI. This will probably be a common theme, but I don't think anyone can beat Run. I think their main competition is probably KAC and IKW, but they've already beaten KAC twice in the regular season, so that's a bit of a statement there. They were already favorites, I think, but then they've added a bunch of huge accounts too. I think Phil came over from RBS. He's like Gold, Purple, Glorious, Rally Lead. God of War Love came over from AFO. He's a near max account, Gold Glorious. He also has his alt account, which is huge. Or is it? Like, this also swings like gold 1k Black Diamond Troop appearances. And there's a few more in there as well. I'm not sure Doctor Strange was in there before. Val's, this account was in Ash just a few weeks ago. Again, that account is huge. So, Run are just too scary. They have too many big accounts. They can knock anyone out of a building, and they have a ton of accounts which you can't really knock out of buildings. Like if you get Savo in on Casterly, what are you realistically gonna do? Like RUI, they've obviously got the huge accounts. I think there's also Kiss of Death was in for the UC lock, who isn't in here right now. So they have a bunch of big whales, but they don't have the depth to their roster that Run has. Like if you have a few of the Bezaming or Kinna tied up in buildings, you just won't be able to rally Run's big guys out. And because of that, I think Run will take this one fairly easily. Then you have RIP against CTP. RIP will probably surprise some people for even being in UC. If you look closely, they dropped power in their first match to get easier matchups, and then they won literally every single match, which is pretty impressive. That's hard to do, to win every match in a row, but I think they got slightly fortunate on matchmaking in these later stages, not matching into anyone huge. You can see that they haven't played a single alliance above 35 billion power. And against CTP, I don't think they can really be competitive because of that. They have strong accounts at the top here, but when they're tied up, they won't be able to do much, especially if you need like 6, 7, 8 rallies. You're not going to be able to knock out CTP's biggest banners with that, especially because CTP have added a bunch of strong accounts, like Donabart came in from GGS, Babmoon came in, Fooly Man came over from Ash. He's a surprisingly strong account. There's a few more. So they beefed up a bit for UC, and they were already pretty strong. They obviously lost CP and Mia from the CTL and WTP merge, which hurts them. But in this matchup specifically, I think they take it over RIP. And then there's FDH versus ETA. FDH are a bit of an unknown, I feel like, because they play at 1 AM, which no other major alliance consistently plays at. Run matched into them this season, I assume, to just knock their points down, because they were getting too close to first. And they obviously have a bunch of strong accounts: Odin, Orticio, Freeze. They're all Gold Glorious rally leads, which are very difficult to deal with. The questions on FDH are, how is their coordination? Because they obviously aren't getting as many reps in as other alliances against each other, so the pressure on things like swaps or being quick with rushing or rally timing isn't as necessary in their regular season matches. So will they have the practice? Will they have the experience with doing that stuff consistently well to be able to execute it in the moment? Against ETA, I think they will win regardless, just because of the banner differences. ETA obviously merged with the remnants of BCL a bit into CKU and then unmerged. A lot of these CKU accounts went to CTP, like I think Satan's Bride, Attacker, those sorts of accounts. So they've lost quite a bit through that, but they do have strong leads like Gigantor and Dracula Mike down here. They've always been very strong, the likes of them. But against FDH, I don't think they can get the win there. Especially because FDH is a higher seed, which means they'll have time slot priority, and they play at really awkward timings at 1 AM. Although they'll probably put the 7 PM, 10 PM time slots in as their second, third option, so maybe that won't have that much of an effect. Mad versus HOH, this is a very close match in terms of power. Mad has been very impressive throughout the season. They're clearly very good at the event. They're very coordinated. They have a lot of trim rally leads. By that I mean like GSW, if he was 2.5 billion power, it would make sense. So their power is deceptive in how strong they are, I feel like. They have a lot of zero castle rally leads. HOH I can relate to in that their makeup is kind of similar to my alliance, where they're very strong, they get very good attendances, they're very coordinated, but they don't have those huge rally leads that you can rally behind. And in AC, that is so important. They have a lot of strong accounts, but if GSW gets stuck on Castly, for example, or Diver, which is a new addition to Mad. I think they've absorbed a few people from Tough. He's not in here right now, but he is for the UC lock, and he is very scary. I'm not sure HOH could knock him out of the building, and that is too big of a problem, I think. And for that, I think Mad will win. I think Mad will do surprisingly well during the entire competition, to be honest, especially with those Tough members coming in. Beating BDR in this last match of the regular season is a big statement, especially because they lost to them a little earlier in the season. I think both of these are sort of pioneers with the swapping meta, which became very popular, and both probably have the most experience of that. So they're both very good at it because of that, and that will help them, even though they don't have the same accounts as the likes of Run. But I think both of them will do very well, and unless you've been following the scene and understand those intricacies, and if you're doing your predictions based on just power instead, you might not. You might miss out on some correct predictions because of that, I feel like. And then we have M3O against Ashe. These two alliances are kind of similar, I think, in makeup. They're both very event focused, but neither has the big depth of max accounts, and M3O just outpowers them. They have more whales, they have more rally leads. Ashe's... We played Ashe, I mean the second to last game, and we got 60k against them, which we were kind of surprised with. We didn't expect to do that well. They did lose a few of their banners as well, like Fully Man left, Vowels left for Run, but this account's now in, so I'm not entirely sure what happened there. It's like they swapped accounts. So Ashe are good at the event, but to compete with M3O, I don't think they have the banners to do so. Barak is strong, that Vowels account was strong, and I assume this Vowsy account is of similar strength. So those two can be competitive, but past that, M3O will just have a longer list of banners, and I think that puts them ahead. Also very coordinated as well. And then there's OBV against KSE. OBV have been impressive all season. They've got a lot of matchups against similar power alliances and beat them out. I think the change to the rules in AC has probably helped them a bit, because they're a very heavy PvP alliance and have kind of strong rally leads because of that. You know, some of these accounts like Kara Jr. and Degoro, they build to rally lead. They like to invade and stuff like that, and then if you go down, accounts like Uruk are deceptively strong leads as well. So they're strong, but against KAC, I think KAC is one of the favourites. Their roster is insane. They have so many strong Gold Glorious rally leads, especially with adding CP and Mia and that group. They're looking very, very good. They also have a reputation for being very fast into buildings. I think Clarazima definitely has a reputation for being incredibly speedy. And if you can get accounts like this into buildings without needing to risk the swap, that is very difficult to knock them out. And against OBV, I don't think OBV could knock those accounts out. I think KSC have like 10 accounts that OBV just couldn't get out of a building, because I think KSC take that fairly easily. And then there's IKW against MHL. IKW, I think, are the highest power alliance in the game going into this, just about overrun. They recruited a few players, like Wise Joker Emerald Ass came from ARP, I think. There's a fair few others. They obviously have a very deep roster of strong accounts. I do have some doubts over them in terms of coordination at the very highest levels of the game, and maybe some questions of, have they grown their roster as much as the likes of KSE and Run have? But they're definitely in the top 3 of this event, I think, with KSE and Run. They have so many strong accounts that will just be a nightmare to deal with for the vast majority of alliances in here. I know they were also quite big on the soloing meta last UC. Obviously, it was good, so they sort of had to be, but I feel like I have more evidence that Run and KSE can adapt to the new meta better than IKW. IKW have played a lot of their matches against alliances not in that top 3. Like, they have no matches against Run or KSC at all here, so it's hard to get a grip on them. They matched CTP here in the first match, but that was the freshly merged CTP with Mia and CP, so it's not the same CTP. I mean, if IKW are getting these sorts of attendances throughout the event, that could be problematic down the road, but against MHL specifically in this matchup, I think they will take it. MHL have the very strong accounts at the top themselves, but they don't have the same depth to their roster in terms of accounts that can hold buildings or rally them. You know, if Darius does these sorts of things each match, that will put them in a very good spot, but I think a lot of this came from soloing, and against IKW you will not be able to solo. You won't be able to solo, I don't know, Sungnam out of a building, will you? I mean, maybe some of their smaller banners that end up on outposts or whatever you could, but I think IKW will take the win there and move on. And then we have NW1 against BDR. We've played NW1 quite a lot in Reese in events. They've always impressed us with how organized they are. They've always been very, very difficult to play against. Their problem is they don't have the Mega Whales, whilst BDR now does. Or maybe not, they don't have the max accounts, but they have accounts close to it, at least closer than NW1. BDR generally has been amazing this season. I think they've impressed a lot of people with how well they played and their coordination. They have accounts like the Burgle account, Jackie Love, the Miller's account, and NW1 will really struggle to get them out of buildings, and BDR will be able to get them into buildings because of how coordinated they are with swaps. They've been pulling them off very consistently throughout the season. These last few matches didn't end great for them, I guess, but there are some huge wins in here, like CTP, and they actually smashed NW1 earlier in the season as well, which might be indicative of how this will go. Both alliances have grown since, but I think BDR are in a good spot to take the win there. And that's all the first round matchups done. So round 2, Run versus CTP. I think Run takes that fairly simply again. Their roster is just too good, too many Gold Glorious accounts. CTP, while strong, they only really have Napoleon as like a top tier rally lead that they can rely on at least. With accounts like Donna Bart coming in, I'm not sure how much this account has fallen behind. Yeah, it's like only purple glorious pieces and then Kingsguard gold. I'm not sure where. It has the likes of the Sapphire Dragon and stuff, how modernized the account is in terms of top tier rally stats. Same with Bad Moon. So I think CTP will maybe put up a bit of a fight, but when it comes to dealing with all of Run's top tier banners, I don't think they'll be able to get it done there. And FDH against Mad, this is maybe the matchup I've gone back and forth with the most in my mind. There's so many questions about FDH's coordination and execution, whilst Mad have really impressed throughout in regards to those things. I feel like Mad will be the favourites in my mind because of how well they've shown to play the game in AC, plus the additions they've made. I think I trust them a bit more to execute on the day. Like I said, I think Mad will surprise people throughout this, especially with the roster they have. I think the bracket falls kind of kindly for them as well when you play it out. They'll lose to Run here, obviously, but when you get down here, I think there's beatable alliances in there, like CTP there. I think they can beat CTP when it gets to it. So we'll get to that. And with M3 against KSE, I'll give that to KSE. I think they have more Gold Glorious rally leads, and M3O will struggle to deal with that. Not much more to be said, really. M3O will go down to a loser's bracket there. I feel like IKW against BDR. I think you have to give it to IKW, but I think BDR will probably be more competitive than you expect. At least if they choose to actually try for it, at least they could just decide to lose and go down to a loser's bracket, which might be a smarter idea, but you'll have to be conceding a loss. IKW obviously have a deeper group of accounts, so if BDR were to do well, they'd have to really execute well with rushing and swaps and getting their best banners on locations. But if you can get Burgle and Millers on a Port and Castley, for example, and then just go all out on reinforcing, there is a reality where BDR could win that match. I feel like maybe I'm crazy, but I have a lot of faith in how well BDR plays the event. That said, I do think IKW will win. I think they're the safe bet there. RUI against RIP. I don't think RIP can withstand the attrition that comes from these top accounts from RUI. Like Baziming can probably solo them out of buildings. He'll just solo for days. He did that in his matchup against us. Like, what is that? He's like 7 times more points than anyone else in the entire match. He spent half the match just soloing our best banner out of Tower of the Warrior. He just kept hitting it over and over and over again, and he'll heal forever to enable it. For an alliance like RIP, that they just won't be able to handle it. So I think RIP will go out at this stage. ETA against HOH. This is quite a well contested match. It's quite even in power. I do think I'll give it to HOH. I think ETA, having lost a few accounts in there, I just don't think they're strongest. I think HOH have been getting better and better and better. You know, the likes of Hofdrings coming in from Ash at the start of the season. They've just been getting so strong. I think they match up quite well against them. Like ETA might have some strong banners on the top end, but I feel like HOH might have a deeper group of them. So I think HOH will be able to hold a few buildings and rally back what they need to the point of winning that one. Ash against OBV. This might be more competitive than is first assumed. I think most people will give it to Ash and not give it much thought. But with them, their biggest problem is they don't have rally leads, and they've lost a few of them with the UC lock. Like Fully Man in the match against us did so well. His rallies hit so hard. I guess he didn't get huge amounts of elimination points there, but you know, those are mostly gone from soloing buildings and don't matter a crazy amount, at least in the point I'm trying to make. So his rallies were hitting very, very hard, and he's not in the alliance anymore. Same with Vows. Like, any more of them left? I don't think so. I think it's those two. Yeah. Oh, There's another one. Like they've lost a few people to the UC lot because I don't think their members thought they'd get very far, which is fair enough. Whereas OBV have just gone stronger and stronger. And I think OBV actually have probably stronger rally leads than Ash does. Honestly, I have a sneaky feeling OBV might get the upset here, which might be controversial. I just think they have a lot of good rally leads, and the Ash matchup, given the time they're catching them at, is kind of ideal. I think Ash are at a weak point right now, and OBV could maybe make them pay there, but I do think Ash are the favourites still. They have such a history of performing well in events, and they've got the experience, they've got the members that will commit to getting the win there. They'll heal, they'll use their own march speed up, stuff like that. But it really wouldn't surprise me to see OBV winning that one. I think that's closer than it looks and might be a bit of a 50-50, honestly. Now, MHL against NW1. I think MHL will take that one. I'm not sure how well NW1 will be able to deal with accounts like Darius, Leophorus, Terax. They have strong accounts, but you need very big whales to be able to knock them out of buildings. Like if MHL end up getting Darius on Casterly, I don't think NW1 could knock him out. And that in AC is such a key win condition, and I think it really gives MHL an advantage here, so I'm definitely favouring them there. NW1 are always so strong in events though, and it really wouldn't surprise me to see them get the win. And then we'll have CTP against RUI. This could be a fun one. CTP, I think, are more organized and have a deeper roster, but RUI have the bigger whales on the top end. I do think CTP will take it though. I think that's where RUI's run will end. CTP have a bit to prove, I think. You know, with dropping CP and Mia, that they're falling back to the cartel days where they can't win through whaling, and it has to purely be through coordination and just playing the game well, which they're obviously great at, but like how will Donabart, Bab Moon accounts like that perform in the matches themselves? Like how will they integrate into their system? How will they execute rally timings? Will they be able to pull those things off consistently and get strong performances out of those accounts? I think there are questions there, but I think you can always bet on CTP getting their coordination down and performing very well, so I think they'll win out there. And there's FDH against HOH. I think FDH will take this just because their banners are so big. I don't think HOH could knock a fair few of these accounts out of buildings. I don't think they could knock Odin or Tissio or Freeze out of buildings at all. Because of that, it seems like quite an easy call. But HOH, if they're quick on rushing and manage to spam reinforce high priority locations throughout, they could probably make it competitive at the very least. I don't think that will be a blowout, but I do think FDH's banner superiority will prove the winning factor in the end. Emfrio against Ash or OBV if they win. I think either way Emfrio will win. Emfrio's roster is just too deep for these two to deal with in terms of the amount of banners they can go down the list towards. I don't think much needs to really be analysed there. Embryo are huge, pulling in huge attendances every time. They're just very difficult to deal with. And then BDR against MHO. I actually think BDR will take this. I think they are more coordinated than MHO will be. You know, when I've watched videos of BDR's games this season, for example, I really have been impressed. So I will give them the edge here, despite MHL being a bit higher power. Maybe that will be controversial, but it's what I think. I did say MAD and BDR will surprise people. I think they're both very, very good at this event, and I think it will pay dividends throughout this bracket. We go up to the winners bracket again. Run. You can't compete with Run. MAD are just falling behind a bit. Behind Run when it comes to banners, even if they play perfectly. Run are just too big. End of story. In KSC against IKW, there will be a lot of eyes on this one. I think I favour KAC, especially with CP and Mia. But this could go either way. If IKW show up in the day and play really well, the accounts they have, they can beat anyone, realistically, if they play perfectly. But I think KSC performed so well last UC, and they've like doubled in size and added so many strong accounts. I think they'll really, really have a great performance this UC. Their only losses are to Run, and I think it will show. Then we got CTP against FDH. I'm kind of back and forth on this one, honestly. I'm gonna favour CTP, but it really wouldn't surprise me if FDH win. Again, I'm just not sure what to think about them because I haven't seen them enough. It's really hard to have an informed opinion on them unless you're inside FDH itself, I feel like, which I am not. So this is entirely on just me knowing CTP will definitely have rally timings and things like that 100% sorted, and they will execute them well, and they have a very deep roster of accounts that could hold buildings. I think deeper than FDH. FDH have the good core of accounts you see in like CCS and stuff, but past that, they fall off a bit more, I feel like. Because like when you look at CTP's roster, you see all the top accounts, but then it's like Napo and Quadesh and the Only King. These are some of their best banners down here. They're like it's the Asterix account, stuff like that. They have very good accounts as you go down, whereas FDH doesn't just have the sheer numbers of accounts like that CTP wields. M3 against BDR, we've seen this match and it was decided in the last few minutes. So this could honestly go either way, because this match could have gone either way. I'm very back and forth on this one. I think BDR probably maybe play the event slightly better. I think they set such a high standard on that, which is very hard for anyone to match. But N3O has the power advantage, obviously, quite significantly. But BDR does have the top tier accounts in there to fall back on, with Burgle, Millers, etc. This one's very difficult. I'm very, very back and forth on this. It really could be won by either. You know, I'm going to be controversial and say BDR take this. And I know that will be controversial. But I just have so much faith in how well they play the event. I think if they can get swaps off and get Miller's Jackie, Burgle onto like Ports and Casterly, that will make it very, very difficult for M3O to deal with. and I trust them to execute that. I think M3O will know they'll be going for that going in, and could make counterplays regarding it. Like, they could preemptively send an attack on a building, somewhat expecting BDR to rush and then swap it, and, like, I don't know, not send a cav march and just wait it out and then speed it in when they try and make the swap and there's no reinforcements in. If M3O commit to that and execute it well, I think that will really hurt BDR's chances, because BDR are very reliant on getting those top accounts into those buildings, because obviously M3O have them outpowered. If they're not getting value out of their top accounts, it will hurt them. But I'll go with BDR. It's maybe a risky pick, but I'll go with BDR. And with Mad against CTP, again, I feel like this is going to be controversial, but I think Mad win that. Some people might not like that, but with the accounts from Tough coming over, like Diver, it really helps Mad. Like a rally lead with Gold Glorious, they've been crying out for that for a long time, I feel like. And they have accounts like this that have also came over from Tough. It really boosts them up and puts them on a more even playing field with CTP in regards to the rally leads. And I think I've seen more evidence of Mad playing the event to the highest level than I have with CTP this season. I think CTP have had a rough season in regards to just all the changes in their alliance, like merging with WTP and then having to unmerge and then changing time slots because they lost their Asian group of leads, which was huge for them. And then they've added all these new accounts, they've got to integrate them. I think there's just a lot of coordination stumbling blocks that I don't have the same questions over with Mad. I think either way it will be very competitive. It will be very back and forth, and I'm sure most people will probably pick CTP, and I do not blame you for that. I think the pick makes a lot of sense, but at worst this is more competitive than it looks like on paper, in my opinion, and I will favour Mad just slightly. IKW against BDR. No matter how well BDR play, I'm not sure they can compete with IKW's accounts. IKW just have such a deeper roster than BDR does. You know, if BDR have Burgle and Millers tied up on buildings, they won't be able to touch a lot of these accounts, like Sungnam, Imperial Rock, Orion. You need a ton of Gold Glorious rally leads to be able to knock them out of buildings. I think because of that, BDR will fall short here. BDR and Mad are at opposite ends of the bracket and are very different paths getting to this point. I think probably the most interesting stories throughout both the regular season and in this Ultimate Conquest. I think Mad maybe had a slightly easier route because BDR had to match into IKW twice to this point, but I think both will be going out at fairly similar times because I think IKW will also be being Mad in this round 6 for same reasons as BDR, that their roster's too deep. If Mad have like GSW and Diver stuck on buildings, how are they gonna deal with IKW's longer list of accounts? I do have more faith in Mad's coordination, but I'm not sure it will matter at this point. you'll get into the top 3 alliances here, and power is really starting to win out at this point. On that note, Run, I think, beat KC. I think Run beat everyone. They've beaten KC twice in the regular season already, here and here. I think that's very indicative of how this match will go, especially with all the accounts they've added as well. And then in round 7 it will be the KC against IKW rematch. I picked KC before, I'll pick them again for the same reasons. And again I'll pick Run for the same reasons as I picked them here. So I think Run will end up winners. I think Mad will be the coming out story. If they can keep any of the tough accounts past UC, that could be very, very interesting if the likes of Diver stay. Maybe Mad could keep growing and become one of the major powerhouses in the game. That would be very fun if that happens. I think KSC will put in a very strong showing throughout, but I think Run will just crush any challengers realistically. They're too scary. Having all these accounts together just isn't fair. It's so hard to compete with this. Way too hard to compete with this. I think everyone knew Run were gonna win, and that caused a slightly compounding effect because it attracted bigger accounts like God of War Love in because they wanted the win, and that just made them more likely to win. Like, we matched into K23, which is where God of War Love is from, in Treasure Seeker, and I got hit by him like an hour into the event, and this account is near max. I don't think I can share stats, but Run certainly did not need an account of this power level being added to them. It makes them absolutely crazy. So here is my bracket. I know it will be controversial in places. I know it will be. I know people will probably get pissed off at me underrating their alliance or overestimating someone they don't like. But this is how I think it will go.